I'm very grateful that you were there in Vegas for the Patient Advocate Bootcamp or the TC Bootcamp, depending on which camp you come from. And I am very sorry that I did not organize my time well enough. I told too many stories. I didn't organize my time well enough to get through the content. So for anybody that was interested in the content as it was completed, I thought I better just shoot this quickly. I showed you this slide, which was indicating that now we are on stage. Someone shows up to the door of the practice, and you're going to now kind of take over the experience. The experience up to this point has largely been virtual. Yeah, they may have called and you may have spoken with them on the phone. That certainly is an engagement. And every other element of that experience has been engagement as well. Now you are on stage, meaning they are in your domain, they are in your practice, meaning you can better control this environment than any other portion of the experience up to this point. And so everything that's going to happen, everything we're going to talk about, stage 1, 2, 3, and 4 of that experience are going to come from them being with you. Now we start here with the pre-appointment experience, understanding that there are certain dynamics that we want to have happen there. I'm not going to go into great detail here because again, I was supposed to fit this into 50 minutes. The idea is we want to keep it easy. Easy, easy, easy. What does easy mean? Easy means keep it electronic. People want their pre-appointment stuff to be electronic. So if we're doing it via paper anymore, not so good. If you're doing it at least by sending out a form that they can PDF fill and have that information ready for you when they come through the door, even better. We know that statistically through AVA, we know that show-up rates are much higher if they fill out their pre-appointment paperwork before ever getting to you. That's exactly what you want to have happen. But unless you make it easy, unless you make it electronic, unless you make it aesthetic, unless you make it simple and smart, they're not going to make that happen for you at any high rates. Think about it this way. We may make it electronic. That's good. We may even make it aesthetically pleasing. But if we don't make it simple and smart, the chances of them getting all of that completed goes down. Case in point, you may send out electronic forms. Those forms may be general in nature, meaning that form number 1, their health history form, what do you ask for? Well, you certainly ask for patient name, patient date of birth, and all of the responsible party information. And then form number 2 might be your HIPAA form. What do you ask for? We certainly ask for patient name, date of birth, blah, blah, blah. Patient 3, your policies and procedures. Here we go again. By the time I'm having to put my information into your form for the 3rd time, the exact same information, I'm getting the idea that, yeah, this really isn't that convenient. It's more convenient for you, but you didn't consider the convenience factor for me. That's what I want. I want the convenience factor for me. So in AVA's forms, for example, we make sure that the patient information, yeah, that comes from when they made the appointment. It doesn't come from them entering it into the form. Okay, we don't need to have that information again. We just put it on the form because, yeah, we just need to confirm who it is. All right, and then finally, what's the why on this? The why is simple. Make it yummy. Because if you make it yummy, it makes it something that is pleasant, something that I want to experience again, perhaps. Make it yummy the best you can. So keep that pre-appointment stuff easy. Same thing with any pre-appointment messaging. I talked about our new patient welcome sequence that we have in AVA. Very important sequence. We know statistically, again, people who use the new patient welcome sequence, show-up rates go up, start rates go up. Why? Because the person is better prepared for that appointment. So please utilize this concept, the easy concept, in all pre-appointment information. And then finally, again, the on-stage, the appointment stuff. Now, this is the on-stage behavior that I talked about in the last slide. Stage 1 is at the door. Stage 2 is when they come in. Stage 3 is the event itself, the exchange with the TC, the exchange with the practice, the exchange with the doctor, all of that is in the event. And then finally, you get stage 4, which is the kiss or the handshake. Now, I thought about this in terms of adolescence because that's the majority of what you treat. And I think, okay, this makes sense. So if I'm an adolescent, if I'm a kid and I'm going on an early date, right? I'm entering into what? A relationship. With whom? You, right? And I talked about this. Relationships are based upon deposits. And the more deposits I make, the more positive deposits I make, the better that relationship is going to go. The more withdrawals I take, the worse that relationship is going to go, right? Going back to the pre-appointment stuff. Relationship, deposits. Huh. They already put my name on the form. Whoa, that's cool. That's a deposit. Making sense? This is how we continue to treat people. So, what happens before I get to the door? I have to get there, right? So, what instructions have I given them in getting there? I gave them the name, perhaps even the address, and perhaps even when I gave them the address, I thought through that. Thought through it in such a way to say, you know what? All I need to give them is the address, because they have right there in their hand, they have a computer, and they can put my address in their GPS, and it will guide them right here. And that's the way I think, right? That's the way I consider that, which is all good and well, right up until I may use it. I was in one of my private coaching clients' practices, and this was the exact thing that they were talking about, is that, well, we're not that hard to find. Yeah, we don't have a sign on the main road. And yeah, we don't have a big sign getting them in here, but we're not that hard to find. All you have to do is put it in their GPS. So I challenged them to this. I said, look, put it in your phone. Next time you come to work, tomorrow morning when you come to work, put your address in your phone and follow the instructions that you're given to get here. And you decide how easy it is, because I had done this a dozen times, right? I had done this with this practice a dozen times via my Uber driver or my Lyft driver, whomever it was I used at that particular time. I knew what the prompts were. I knew how difficult it was, even with those prompts, to know which building I was looking at was the actual building that I was going to. So even though it sounds simple, it's not as easy as we might think. When I get out of the car, what is my experience? Or when I pull into the parking lot, what is my experience? Do I have enough parking? I've had 2 clients that have had to add additional parking onto their practices. Why? Because the experience that people were having, do I want them frustrated finding a parking spot before they come in for the very first time to my office? Probably not. Do I want them looking at dead grass? Do I want them looking at weeds? Do I want them looking at dirt that's uncared for? No, I want everything to be as pleasant as the experience is that I want them to have. I remember going to a practice one time, getting to the practice, entering the practice for the very first time, and when I let go of the door, my hand was sticky. I could see little prints, little paw prints, handprints actually, all over the glass door. When I walked through, just looking over the threshold, as I walked into the practice, right there on the ground, the carpet was rolled up. It was torn and rolled. Now, that's just as I was entering the door. So what is that experience? And does that experience matter to the rest of the experience that we want that individual to have with the practice? Okay? So think of this in terms of a dating process, right? Stages 1 through 4 here. Let's think of it in terms of a dating process. And then I thought about an analogy here. I thought, you know what? We're dealing a lot with adolescents. So let's take an adolescent dating experience. And I'm kind of an old-fashioned guy. So I'm going to stick with, I'm a guy and I really like this girl and I really want her to like me, right? And I want to go on a date with her. I want to impress her. I want this to continue, or at least I think I do at this particular point in my life. So let's take it from that perspective. So what happens when I actually consider going on this date, right? Going for the very first time. What do? Do I go to the door, right? How have I taught my kid? I taught my kid to drive up and honk. Maybe that's the most impressive way to catch the girl. Or maybe I've taught them in today's parlance, maybe I taught them to text ahead of time, let them know you're coming. And then when you get there, text and let them know to come on out. Yeah, probably not good for me. I wouldn't particularly teach my kid that way. In fact, I didn't teach my son that way. My son had to go to the door, and thankfully this was before cell phones, so that's okay. It worked out well then, but at least he could have honked, but hopefully he never did. He actually went to the door, presented himself well, presented himself courteously, presented himself in such a way that whomever it is that answered the door would have liked him and invited him in. That's what we're after. And so when we think about the patient, the new patient coming up for the very first time, what is the getting to the practice experience like? What information have I given them to actually get to the practice? And once they get there, where do they park? And is there room for them to park? Have I made it simple for them to, and pleasant for them to actually approach the door? Do they know which door to go to if you're in a building that has multiple practices? Have I made it clear where our building is or where our door is? What does that door look like? What does it feel like? What is that experience going to be? All of these things matter. These are all part of the first part of the date, right? So I've already asked them out. This all happened ahead of time, but now I'm on stage. Now it becomes real. So stage one of this is, how have we prepared them to actually enter the practice, and what is it like for them to actually do so? Stage two is really all about that entrance process. What type of experience are they having with us when they enter for the very first time? Are they being greeted right away? What is that greeting like? Is it like what I did in the seminar, or is it optimally far more friendly, far more engaging, what we really want them to have? What is that experience like for them? And then finally, when we get to stage three, that's the event itself. Stage three is all about the date, the movie, the whatever that is, the event of the date. What's happening during that? Have I made that pleasant? Am I engaging during that process? If my date likes to just sit and watch the movie, did I talk the whole time? If my date likes to talk the whole time, did I show interest in listening? Okay, those are all things that are in this dance, right, that we're doing in stage three. Stage three is that event with the TC, that event with the doctor. What's happening during that process? Or do I have to relate to multiple people? So I have one person who was my intake person, a second person who was my records person, a third person who is my TC, a fourth person who is my doctor. Do you know how difficult it is to navigate 4 relationships versus 1? Think about these things during the process, all right? And then finally, do I get to stage 4? And stage 4 is the kiss or the handshake. Do I get a kiss? Do I get a contract? Do I get somebody ready to start treatment? Are they starting today? Do I get the kiss? Or do I have to continue the dating process in order to get to the kiss? Those are critically important pieces as well. We may discover that they're not ready for the kiss yet, right? So they go into observation. Or we may discover that they are, not quite warmed up to me yet. So they go into follow-up. Now in phase 3 of this process, the treatment process is really going to be centered here on orthodontic and team moments, along with personal moments for everyone, for patients, for team members, for doctor. Everybody has to have those personal moments. This is what the moments process is all about, is really staging and understanding and engaging each of those elements, because they're critically important to the ongoing process. What we're looking for here is congruency across the 3. So the pre-appointment, appointment, and treatment phases, those 3 phases must be congruent in the experience process, in the cultural process. And as they are, the more congruent they are, then the easier this becomes, the more perpetual this becomes. That's what we're after as far as a business is concerned. We want that to move into that great phase, right? So the difference between a good practice and a great practice, good start rate, great start rate, good experience, great experience, is all about this perpetuation cycle. And the sooner we can get into that, the better. It's not easy, but it certainly does work so much better once we do. Now, there are asterisks on each of these, because there are people that are going to drop out during the pre-appointment phase. There are people that are going to drop out during the appointment phase. They may no-show or they may cancel. There are people that are going to drop out during the treatment phase. So what we need to do with them is follow up, because as they drop out, as they flow out of these buckets, we want to have a mechanism to catch them and re-engage them. It's all about the engagement process. Again, it's all about relationships. And we have to understand that as they fall out, we want to capture them and then re-engage them at some point along the way. So as Brooke shared with you in the live portion of the event, if you're spending 2.5 hours in follow-up per week, absolutely get a hold of me. We have a process in AVA that makes follow-up so much simpler and far more effective. So we can cut that time dramatically, far more than in half, and make the time that you are spending more effective and a broader base of follow-up than we currently are doing now. We can put to rest, does follow-up work? Yes, follow-up absolutely works. What we're really shooting for, again, with that single central focus, is people starting treatment. And we want to continually keep that opportunity in front of people. And in the busy lives that people have, following up is really where we need to be. So in these last couple of slides, I want to just kind of walk you through, again, you've seen this, the patient journey, you've seen this via the staff journey. What we're really shooting for here is loyalty, right? It's great to have a committed staff member, even better to have a loyal one. Great to have someone considering a job, even better to get them hired. Great to have an interview, even better for them to say, yep, this is where I want to work. Great to have a resume, but even better to get an interview. That's the process that we're after. With the team experience, that's what we're after with the patient experience. We really walk them through this process. We have an opportunity to influence in this, however. So people come in starting as leads. We want to move them into prospects, and then eventually they become the patient, right? That's where we want them to be. As the patient, we've done something for them. They've started treatment. That's the gold standard. That's where we want them. Even better, though, when they become a friend. So when I'm a friend of the practice, I refer back. When I'm a friend of the practice as a team member, and then when there's an opening, I'm going to bring somebody like me. I'm going to bring another great team member. That's the opportunity that this process presents. So from an analogy, again, think of this as an apple tree. When we first plant an apple tree, it's young, it's fragile. It takes a lot of care, a lot of nurturing. Has to continually be watered, continually be fertilized. Why? Because we want to give it the best opportunity for growth, right? And as it matures, it's going to mature into something that's a little bit more sustainable, a little bit closer to getting where we want to be. Now, it's not exactly where we want it to be yet because it's not fulfilling its potential. This tree may produce some shade and it may, be nice to look at, but it's certainly not producing its potential. Where we want to get it is here, right? This is the area that we want it to bear fruit. And once it starts bearing fruit, then it is effective in helping to fulfill what it needs to fulfill. And a fruit-bearing apple tree is good. But we want to be great, not good. We want to get to great. And to get to great means that we have to realize the true potential and the true power of this practice, of this organizational structure, is to get to this end. Because it's in that seed that orchards grow. So I'm going to leave you with one final idea, one final slide that sums up everything that we've talked about. And as we flow through the process, this is the same process from awareness all through loyalty, and we're really putting people on this path, right? And it's wonderful because as a practice, we get to design the path. We can make it straight and easy to navigate with lots of road signs along the way, or we can make it windy and hard to navigate. We can make the path smooth, or we can make it rough. However you design it, those are the moments that people are going to have. The three things that we want to consistently be certain of is that we prepare, we present, and we engage. And that's how we want to pave our road. How are we preparing? How are we presenting? How are we engaging? And as we do that consistently throughout the process, then it makes people far more willing, far more desirous to take the journey to the farthest conclusion that we want, right? We want people to a point, yes, but that's early on in the process. We want them to show up, yes, but that's early on in the process. We want them to start treatment, yes, that's great. That means we've helped them. But then ultimately, we want them to refer. That's what creates a great experience. thank you so much for sticking with me through this second phase so that you could get all of the information. And again, I apologize for having put you through that, not being prepared enough to get through it the first time. I'm grateful for Dr. Burleson giving me the opportunity to visit with you. I'm grateful for the co-presenters who shared so much of what they know that we could glean from. And I'm thankful for all of you for the work that you do and the effort that you went through to learn how to do it even better. Thank you so much. And until next time, take care.